Good morning, everyone. Please rise for the centennial prayer for the courts, the national anthem, and the Supreme Court hymn.
Almighty God, we stand in your holy presence as our supreme judge. We humbly beseech you to bless and inspire us so that what we think, say, and do will be in accordance with your will. Enlighten our minds, strengthen our spirit, and fill our hearts with fraternal love, wisdom, and understanding, so that we can be effective channels of truth, justice, and peace. In our proceedings today, guide us in the path of righteousness for the fulfillment of your greater glory. Amen.
Wayang magiliw, kemas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka masisingil, sa lalat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bakaw, may ilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang linawaan, ang kisap ng wataw at mo'y tagumpay na nag-iigil, ang bituin ng araw niya kailan ay magdidilim, lupa ng araw ng maraming konsep na buhay ay langit sa likod. Aming ligaya dapat may mamahagin at mamatay lang dahil sa'yo. Behold the guardians of our rights, enrobed in majesty and light, uphold the fundamental law, from His writ all their judgments flow. With conscience free their views to air, they vow and this to all declare, rich or poor, friend or foe, alike, the Spencer among us rise. Justice and execute for all, love, truth, and fairness win their war. This stands the fourth of every sword, forever Supreme Court. Vision settled history, their mission leaves a legacy. For their honor, their faith, their names, all nation will hold a praise. Justice and execute for all, love, truth, and fairness reign their cause. This stands the fourth of every sword, forever Supreme Court. Vision settled history, their mission leaves a legacy. For their honor, their faith, their names, all nation will hold a flame. For their honor, their faith, their names, all nation will hold a
You may now be seated. Again, good morning. This is a public panel interview of candidates for the positions of Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Vice retiring Honorable Francis Jardeleza and Honorable Antonio T. Carpio. The panel of interviewers are the following: the Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza, Chairperson of the Judicial and Bar Council Executive Committee and regular member representing the retired members of the Supreme Court. The Honorable Judge Toribio Ilaw Jr., regular member representing the private sector. The Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Tiham, regular member representing the academe. And the Honorable Judge Franklin de Monteverde Sr., regular member representing the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Your Honors, the candidates for interview this morning are in the following order: Judge Carlos L. Esparó II. Please rise, sir. Justice Samuel H. Garland and Justice Oscar C. Herrera Jr.
Attorney Arricheta, please administer the oath.
Yes, sir. Please raise your right hand so that I can administer the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this public panel interview by the Judicial and Bar Council? So help you God. Your Honors, the first candidate to be interviewed is Judge Carlos Esparó II. May I request Justice Garland and Justice Herrera to please stay in the holding room while the interview of Judge Esparó is being conducted. Sir.
Judge Esparó, take your seat, please. The first one to interview you will be Judge De Monteverde. Judge De Monteverde.
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, Judge.
Morning, Your Honor.
How is your health?
I'm fine, Your Honor.
Fine. However, your medical record shows that in July, you had the urinalysis, blood chemistry, and triglycerides taken. These were all high.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh. So, are you taking medications or what?
Regularly now, Your Honor.
You regularly take.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, you are not in the pink of health, I would say.
My doctor said, Your Honor, I'm in the pink of health, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Where are you stationed now, Judge?
RTC Branch 9, Davao City, Your Honor.
And is this the first time that you have applied for the position by Justice in the Supreme
My
Court?
second time, Your Honor.
Supreme Court?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And what was the result of the first? You were not shortlisted?
Not, Your Honor.
Okay. Considering that this is the second time that you had applied, what then are the differences between the first time that you applied and now? How were you prepared?
In the first time, Your Honor, I guess I was more judged on the performance of my court, Your Honor. And now I believe I have performed better in terms of disposal of cases, Your Honor.
Okay. You also tried to enter politics before?
Not, Your Honor.
Okay. How about for the office of the ombudsman? Did you apply for it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, I'll only ask you a few questions, but this will center mostly on your banking experience.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sometime in 1995, you were the manager of Solid Bank Corporation
Yes, Your Honor.
until 2005.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in your stint there, were there foreclosure cases made by your bank?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I'll give you a hypothetical question. A corporation had a loan with a certain bank for non-payment of his obligation. The loan was foreclosed, and then this corporation had to redeem the property, otherwise it will be taken by the bank. Okay, so what is the period to redeem by this corporation?
Corporation, Your Honor. But under the new law, I guess it's only 90 days, Your Honor.
From what?
From the date of the registration of the foreclosure, Your Honor.
You mean the certificate of sale?
Yes, Your Honor.
The annotation of the certificate of sale. What about the private individual?
A private individual, they're given a year, Your Honor, to redeem their foreclosed property.
From?
From, of course, the same date of registration of the certificate of sale.
Okay. Now, another hypothetical question, and this would involve a government-owned or corporate, or a financial institution owned or corporate, government-owned or corporate entity. What is the amount to be redeemed from, will it be the amount bid at the sheriff's foreclosure sale or the total accountability?
Once the borrower redeems the property, Your Honor, he has to pay for all the principal, interest, and penalties, Your Honor.
Not the amount bidded at the sheriff's auction sale.
Not, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You took up law where?
In Davao City, Your Honor, Ateneo de Davao University.
And your previous educational attainments, elementary, high school, and college, preparatory to law?
I graduated in a public school and elementary. In high school, Your Honor, I graduated from Notre Dame. And in all my courses, 3 other courses, tertiary, I took it from Ateneo de Davao, Your Honor.
Okay. Notre Dame of what?
Milbok, Your Honor.
Where is this Milbo?
That is in Palimbang, Your Honor.
Okay. You have one case filed against you for disbarment. Tell us about it.
That's interesting, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a case wherein I filed a case for annulment of marriage. And the judge at the time insisted that I should amend my pleading, that it should be for the purpose of remarriage. And of course, I argued against that, Your Honor. And after argued lengthily, the judge then just gave me, Shoko's order why I should not be cited in contempt, Your Honor. Eventually, the copy furnished of the show cause order was furnished to the office of the bar confidant, and the Supreme Court acted on it. And after a few months, the case was dismissed with a minute resolution, Your Honor.
What did you do with it? Considering that it was only a minute resolution.
It was a dismissal, Your Honor.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Now, there's a Senate bill number 2065, or the Judges at Large Act of 2018. It is said by some that would be the solution to the country's overloading cases in the trial courts. And this bill seeks to create 100 positions for regional trial judges at large and 50 positions for municipal trial judges at large nationwide to assist judges in the second and first level courts that are overloaded with cases. Is this a solution to unclogging dockets in the courts?
With all due respect to
Your thoughts about it?
With all due respect to the proponent of that particular bill, Your Honor, I firmly believe that that is not the solution to the problem. We should really,
What is the solution?
should really appoint permanent judges of, for instance, in Davao, Your Honor. Of course, some courts are, are overcrowded with cases, just like drugs court and the family courts. I think there should be additional and permanent judges for that, Your Honor. I believe that judges will be more effective if they are assigned permanently.
But the problem, Judge, is this. There are courts in other places where there are no applicants. Like, for instance, in Hulu, Tawi-Tawi. And if ever, as you said, we take that up, there will be instances when there will be no courts in those places.
In that particular
So,
case,
what can you do about it?
in that particular case, Your Honor, of Hulu, because of a friend there, I don't know if he's still there, a judge. Maybe that would be an exception, Your Honor. Maybe we can assign a temporary judge there, no? In fact, he was telling me that every time he goes to a hearing, he has to be accompanied by a battalion of soldiers, and he has to stay in the barracks of the soldiers. And every weekend, he goes home to Zamboanga City. In fact, his son was already shot. I don't know of his whereabouts this time, Your Honor, if he's still there.
So you would agree that in those instances, judges at large would play a very important role.
Yes, Your Honor.
Judges at large.
But in general,
Not temporary.
not
Judges at
temporary,
large.
Your Honor.
Because if there will be judges at large, then the Supreme Court can assign them wherever there is a need for it. Right?
But my option for that, or suggestion to that, Your Honor, is actually there are judges also who have less loads. For instance, in one particular municipality in Davao del Norte, she has only 20 cases, and she told me that, I've already finished so many, he was just crocheting in his court. That's why she is now transferred in Davao City. But she only reports in Asuncion, Davao del Norte, I think, once a week, Your Honor.
We go to the doctrines, recent laws, or international law. Now, it is a well-settled rule that an unconstitutional act is not a law. It confers no rights, It imposes no duties and it affords no protection. However, there is an exception to that. Do you know the exception to that?
If I may hazard a guess, Your Honor, is the doctrine of operative facts.
Yes. What is it and how is it applied?
The doctrine of operative facts states that for as long or until and unless the same law has been invalidated or declared unconstitutional, the effects of the same is valid.
Anything more?
That's all I can say, Your Honor.
And what is the concept of executive agreements?
Executive agreements need not be ratified by the Senate, Your Honor.
Can you cite the subjects or purposes it would cover?
It may include executive agreements with respect to defense matters.
What about the inherent powers doctrine? How is it invoked and exercised by the court?
Inherent powers. Because as far as the Supreme Court, Your Honor, is it's the power to promulgate rules with respect to rules, procedure in the judiciary. That is the inherent power of the judiciary, Your Honor.
Okay, my last question. You are an RTC judge
Yes, sir.
applying for a seat in the Supreme Court.
Yes, sir.
What is it in you that could convince us to vote for you?
My only reason for applying the Supreme Court, Your Honor, is to be of help or to be of assistance on the administrative aspect of the Supreme Court, Your Honor. For instance, Your Honor, the e-court system of the court right now, Your Honor, from the time it was first implemented to date, I guess nothing has been done. For instance, in my own court, if there is now, this is a drugs court, Your Honor, if there is now another case that will be filed, I will not even be informed that, that there was a previous case filed before me. I mean, the system will not even give a ring that a particular case has been filed prior to that, or in any other court in Davao City, or in any other court in the Philippines. What I'm trying to say, Your Honor, the e-court system should be able to capture all this data nationwide, Your Honor. Another thing, Your Honor, in the matter of the timekeeping of the employees, Your Honor, in Davao City, I consider that, the employees are having their thumbprints on a particular machine. And I tried to verify, I was informed that that is a Davao City installed machine. But at the end of the day, when they have to submit their daily time records for purposes of their payroll, they have still to do it manually, Your Honor. And to me, if that is, collated nationwide, it costs a lot of money for the government. Now, computerizing the same is no longer costly. Maybe 20, 30 years ago it is, but now it's a lot cheaper. And there's so many things, Your Honor. For instance, monitoring of performances of judges, Your Honor. I don't think, with all due respect to the highest court of the land, that the individual performance of judges are being monitored. For instance, we are required to submit voluminous documents. But now I think there's a new rule that we are no longer required to submit voluminous documents. We are required to submit just the USB. But again, the question is, who in the Supreme Court is monitoring or trying to read this USB? What I'm trying to suggest is that the computer system in a particular court should be now connected with the computer in the head office on the Supreme Court, so that immediately cases as to whether it is past due, sometimes I call it past due, because it is beyond the reglementary period of disposal, then immediately the Supreme Court, for instance, or the Office of the Court Administrator would be able to determine whether these cases have been, disposed of, properly disposed of. Another thing, Your Honor, of the three departments in the government, the executive, the legislative, and judiciary, it is the judiciary that ranks lowest in terms of being liked by the public. Why? Because I believe, now, again, this is now the individual initiative of the judges, but I guess the problem really is not with the justices of the Supreme Court. When there is a survey, it's not really the justices of the Supreme Court that are reflected in that particular survey, but it is the performance of the individual judges and it nationwide. That's why you can see there, employees who are discourteous, and of course, its employees in the lower court levels are discourteous, and this reflects a bad image for the judiciary. Of course, when we say judiciary, they would always say the Supreme Court. So I think let's bring down that.
Okay, Judge, that will be all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That was my last question. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Judge Monteverde, Justice Tihang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Can you tell us who is your role model in the Supreme Court and why?
Honestly, Your Honor, ever since, because I'm also in the academe, it's the Chief Justice. It's simply because of his style of writing, Your Honor. And I guess his style is so difficult to emulate. To me, it's almost perfect, Your Honor.
It would be too late to join him in the court because he is retiring next month. Apart from the Chief Justice, is there any particular other justices in the court, past or present, whom you consider to be a role model?
It will be Justice Peralta and Justice Bernabe, Your Honor. Bernabe.
As an RTC judge, can you adjudicate the case without conducting a hearing?
Yes, Your Honor. From the very beginning, there's no probable cause. Or maybe taking from the case of the Supreme Court and back decision in the case of People versus Lim, Your Honor.
In the case of a criminal case, if there is no evidence submitted by the prosecution, you can dismiss it outright upon motion of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor, but of course, in my case, I would require the prosecution to make a comment on the same motion, Your Honor.
What about in civil cases? As an RTC judge, can you dispose of the civil case pending before you without conducting a hearing?
In that particular situation, Your Honor, I will always conduct a hearing, Your Honor. Because I have to hear the position of the plaintiff, Your Honor.
What if during the pretrial conference, all of the factual issues are admitted by both parties, and what remains to be resolved are merely the legal issues, and the evidence marked and submitted during pretrial conference are admitted by both parties? In that particular case, is it still necessary
No
to
more, Your
conduct a
Honor.
hearing?
No more, Your Honor.
So that is the exception.
Yes, Your Honor.
Will it not violate due process of law?
No, Your Honor.
In the Supreme Court, is it necessary to conduct oral arguments to resolve a case pending before the Supreme Court?
Not, as far as I'm concerned, Your Honor, it's not necessary.
What is the purpose of oral arguments before the Supreme Court?
The purpose of the oral argument, Your Honor, is to elicit from the parties whether they have further oral arguments that they may want to raise, which is not present or were not elucidated in their pleadings, Your Honor.
Are you saying that the members of the court should go beyond what is stated in the pleadings and elevated before the court and demand that additional matters be submitted for purposes of oral arguments?
I think the court may go into, say, further clarification of some matters, Your Honor.
For whose benefit do you think the oral arguments before the Supreme Court is being conducted? Is it for the benefit of the justices of the Supreme Court because they are not fully aware of the facts, they are not fully aware of the issues, they are not fully aware of existing jurisprudence? Or is it for the benefit of the parties, litigants, and more so for the benefit of the public?
It is, I think it's for the benefit of all parties, Your Honor, including the court, Your Honor.
So you're saying that when justices of the Supreme Court appear during the oral arguments, it is safe to assume that they have not read the pleadings, they have not read the issues, they have not read the applicable jurisprudence, considering that they have no less than 15 lawyers in their office.
I will not say that, Your Honor.
It is an advisory for purposes of oral arguments.
An advisory for those are the, normally they are the what we call the friends of the court, Your Honor. And
How is it different from an amicus curiae? Advisory as differentiated from an amicus curiae.
as far as I'm concerned, Your Honor, they're the same. Advisory and amicus curiae.
The only difference is the spelling. You're
Yes,
saying?
Your Honor.
Okay. What is a PDL? What is a PDL? Are you familiar with this?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is a PDL?
Person deprived of liberty.
Persons who are detained, all right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. If the trial of a PDL is conducted via video teleconferencing, does it violate the rights of the accused?
No, Your Honor. Because, first of all, it's represented by counsel. Maybe the one issue that may be raised by him is that the right to confrontation or to confront the witness against him. But again, the witness against him is also presented via teleconferencing, Your Honor. In fact, this is the new teleconferencing is not new, Your Honor. In fact, this is already, I think, in the cases of children or witnesses to a particular case, Your Honor, and I think this has been approved by the court, Your Honor.
Is it necessary to secure the consent of the accused to a video teleconferencing? And if the accused does not give its consent, can the court compel him to undergo teleconferencing?
Yes, Your Honor, because there is, he is not deprived of due process in this particular case, Your Honor.
So the consent of the accused is not necessary,
Not necessary, Your Honor.
and it will not violate his rights.
His rights to due process.
Supposing a convicted PDL is granted the benefits of the good conduct time allowance and he is released, can he be rearrested solely because the computation of his GCTA was erroneous, or that it was ascertained that he was, after all, disqualified from enjoying the benefits of the good conduct time allowance?
Yes, Your Honor, because he has not actually served his sentence.
And pursuant to what authority can he be rearrested?
I would cite the case of People versus Fidel Tan, Your Honor, a 1967 case.
Who will order the arrest of that person who has been released pursuant to a good conduct time allowance?
The court can still order the arrest of that particular PDL, Your Honor, considering that one of the functions of the court is to see to it the implementation of the sentence.
Isn't it that the release of a prisoner pursuant to a computation of a good conduct time allowance is final?
That is, right now, Your Honor, that is another school of thought. But I believe,
Well,
since
I'm interested in asking you, what are your thoughts on that?
my thought is that there was really no complete service of sentence, so he must be arrested.
The president the other day on media announced that he was ordering the surrender of these convicts who were released pursuant to an erroneous computation after a lapse of certain period of days. Is that announcement by the president sufficient authority for law enforcement authorities to arrest these people? Or is it necessary to go to court?
As far as I'm concerned, Your Honor, that is not sufficient. The authorities or the law enforcement authorities should really go to court.
And if these convicts who were released pursuant to the good conduct time allowance are rearrested, will it violate their constitutional rights?
No, Your Honor. It will not violate. It will not even, they cannot even cite twice jeopardy or double jeopardy in this particular case.
My last question, what do you understand by red tagging?
Red tagging means a particular group as being members of rebel groups, Your Honor. I would say
Members
rival
of the
groups, not the Communist Party.
CPP and PA.
Yes, CPP and PA, Your Honor.
Is red tagging lawful and constitutional?
Well, as far it's lawful, Your Honor, in this particular manner. It's lawful because the state has to identify its enemies. It has to protect itself.
Is the CPP and PA a subversive organization?
As far as the CPP, as far being a party or as a communist party, they are not what they call as illegal organizations, Your Honor. But
That's not
the
the question.
NPAs,
Is it a subversive organization?
well, as far as I'm concerned, Your Honor, they are, or it is a subversive organization.
Can they be prosecuted for violation of the anti-subversion law?
If the yes, Your Honor, if they violate, if they really want to overthrow the government, if there's rebellion, Your Honor, they can.
The anti-subversion law still in effect?
No more, Your Honor.
So they
No
cannot
more.
be prosecuted for something.
Not
which is
subversion, Your Honor.
All right. That is my last question. Thank you and
Thank
good
you.
luck. Your
Thank you very much, Justice Judge Ilaw.
Thank you, Justice Mendoza. Yes, good morning, Judge.
Good morning po. Good morning, Your
Esparó.
Honor.
Carlos Libunao, Esparó II.
Yes, Your Honor.
And your father is still living,
Deceased, Your Honor.
already
And-
deceased.
My mother as well.
So that, I have extensively interviewed you last year.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are there any notable changes in your qualifications since your last interview, apart from the seminars you have started attending?
There are none, Your Honor.
And you said that this is not the first time you applied to the Supreme Court.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're not only the one who applied to the Supreme Court coming from the Regional Trial Court of Davao City. I remember another judge, a
That's-
lady judge who applied.
Davao,
for it.
she's from Davao del Norte, Your Honor.
Davao del Norte. That's far from Davao City.
55 kilometers away, Your Honor.
All right. That will be 2 steps from Regional Trial Court to Supreme Court.
Yes,
You
Your
agree?
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
And the council has a proposed amendment not allowing 2 steps up. What are your thoughts on this?
As far as that particular policy, Your Honor, of the council, if supposing that particular policy is already in place, then it is okay with me, Your Honor, since there is no policy barring one, say, going 2 steps higher, then that's the reason I applied, Your Honor.
There is no quarrel that there is no such prohibition now in the JBC rules disallowing such
Yes, sir.
intention to have a 2 steps up. And what are your outstanding or compensating credentials, if any, that may help you to, or the council to consider that you may be nominated to the Supreme Court?
Not that I have a standing credentials, Your Honor, but as far as my previous experience, Your Honor, as I've said, if only to contribute to the administrative matters in the Supreme Court, Your Honor, I guess I will be qualified in that aspect, Your Honor.
And before applying, were you able to talk to the President, asking for his advice or any of the confidante of the President?
The last time that I talked to the President, Your Honor, was in 2013, Your Honor.
All right, could you tell us more about the business of your wife, Evertersun Global Exchange Incorporated? Because you mentioned, you stated in your PDS that your wife is a businesswoman.
Yes, Your Honor. He is into real estate also, Your Honor.
How is your real estate located? What properties is he interested in?
Actually, he is in the buy and sell, Your Honor, and she also acts as a broker of real estate properties.
How is your son now, Chris Charles Lacson Esparó?
Chris Charles Lacson Esparó is my youngest son, Your Honor, and she's still studying, Your Honor.
He was reported to have been arrested in a buy-bust operation in October 2018
Yes, Your Honor.
and considered a high-value target by authorities. How do you feel about this?
Honestly, Your Honor, at that time when it happened, I thought of resigning from my job, Your Honor. And I was really disappointed with my life, Your Honor.
And looking back, would you have done anything differently?
I could say, Your Honor, that, I've not been remiss as far as my duties and obligations to my children, Your Honor. In fact, at the age of his, say at 30 years old, it should be beyond my responsibility, Your Honor. But I feel that being a good parent, I still have to support him, Your Honor.
How have you embodied the principle of integrity in your entire legal career?
As far as I'm concerned, Your Honor, as far as integrity, Your Honor, of course, I'm the model of my children and of my wife. And in fact, that is one of the questions that I asked of myself, saan ako nagkamali with respect to my son.
So, what was then your answer?
Of my son, Your Honor.
About asking yourself, don't you think that's self-serving, being a model of your family?
That's what I thought, Your Honor. I guess I was, I'm providing them everything.
You're a good provider.
I don't have, I cannot say that, I'm a vice, or I'm not into gambling, I'm not into womanizing. My job is from work to home. So I don't drink, Your Honor.
You smoke?
No, Your Honor.
About your nightlife?
I have no nightlife, Your Honor, unless invited by some fraternity brothers. But normally these are just fun, socializing, Your Honor.
Just fun. So you do it in broad daylight, not at night?
At night, Your Honor.
All right, when asked by Justice Tiam about who is or who are your role models in the Supreme Court, you mentioned the Chief Justice and the two other justices.
Yes, Your Honor.
And who are not those justices or justice, you're not role model?
As far as I'm concerned, Your Honor, because what I only appreciate, Your Honor, is, or I judge them on the basis of the decisions that they have penned.
And who do you consider to be the worst justice in the Supreme Court, past and present?
I cannot think of anybody, Your Honor. But
You cannot think then, but now.
as far as the writings are concerned, the penning of decision, Your Honor, frankly, I don't appreciate very much the decision writing style of the past Chief Justice, Your Honor.
Can you mention in particular for this past
Chief
Chief
Justice
Justices?
Sereno, Your Honor.
Justice Sereno. Oh, what is your takeaway of the case of Republic versus Sereno?
That is only my own perception, Your Honor.
Your own perception about others' perceptions.
As far as Justice Sereno, Your Honor, I am not aware of the same, Your Honor.
All right, do you agree that lawyers, magistrates should be abreast with recent legal developments?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, what are the three guiding principles in rape cases that aid you in determining the innocence or guilt of the accused as initiated by the court? Have you read the case?
Honestly, Your Honor, I have not encountered the same, and I want to manifest, Your Honor, that, right now as an RTC judge, I'm simply focused with drugs cases, Your Honor.
So, honestly, about thinking to be dishonest.
I've never thought of the same, Your Honor. I'm just trying to open out of what I really know.
So my last question will be like this. What, if any, do you wish to change in our judicial system or process?
I forgot all the, with respect to the matters that I would want to introduce in the rules of court, Your Honor, but I would like to, to improve further on, or to read that the court should really insist on the use of judicial affidavits, Your Honor, to abbreviate the proceedings of the court.
All right, the follow-up question will be, how about determining the demeanor of the witness? If you're going to base it only on the judicial affidavit.
The demeanor of the witness in that particular case, Your Honor, can be done or can be made during the cross-examination of the witness, Your Honor. And in that particular situation, the judge can now observe the demeanor of the witness.
All right, that was my last and final question. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Judge Ilao. Judge Esparó, you are aspiring to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Are you familiar with the rules or the internal rules of the Supreme Court?
No, Your Honor.
You want to introduce reforms. How can you introduce reforms? The basic rules of the court, you do not know.
The reforms that I do want to introduce, Your Honor, is on the basis on administrative matters that I observe from the outside, Your Honor.
From the outside. So, what are these? What have you observed? And did you do anything about them?
Right now, Your Honor, being outside of the fence and just a mere RTC judge, I cannot do anything, Your Honor.
You can write the Chief Justice, you can write the court administrator. Did you do it? If you have, you could have contributed
It has
something.
been my plan, Your Honor, but I am hesitant in the sense that I may be rebuked, Your Honor. You know, we are just ordinary court judges in the province, and we do not know how the justices think, and even maybe the office of the court administrator may not like it.
You are hesitant because you may be rebuked.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you want to join the ranks of the justices, so you will not be rebuked when you suggest reforms.
Yes, Your Honor.
You can do it while an RTC judge. Even the Supreme Court welcomes suggestions from the public or from the ranks or from the members of the judiciary.
I'm glad to know about it, Your Honor.
I heard you earlier that I'm not sure of this. I may have not have heard you right. You said something about Justice Sereno. What was that?
That was about the style in writing, Your Honor.
Not the personality.
Not the personality, Your Honor.
Oh. What was her style?
I think it has something to do with the cohesion of the subject matter, Your Honor. Cohesion of ideas.
So the contents, not the style of writing. The contents.
Contents as well as the style, Your Honor.
Give us one example.
I can no longer cite that particular case, Your Honor, but I'm sure it was a drugs case, Your Honor.
Remember anything about that drug case? Was the accused acquitted or the judgment of conviction affirmed?
I think there was a judgment of... I think it was an acquittal, Your Honor, because I think the accused was caught in a particular checkpoint, Your Honor.
And so the accused was acquitted.
Yes, Your Honor.
You do not agree with that?
No, it's not that I don't agree with the decision, Your Honor, but the way the ideas were presented, Your Honor.
What ideas?
Maybe as far as maybe the jurisprudence used, Your Honor.
Jurisprudence use. But he was just adhering to precedents.
Now maybe I just don't want this style, Your Honor, wherein a lot of jurisprudence use were American jurisprudence, Your Honor.
See, how about the quo warranto case? What is your personal opinion?
As far as the quo warranto case, Your Honor, from the very start, it was really my guess at that time. From the very start, I agree that a justice may be removed from his position by a quo warranto, Your Honor.
And what is a quo warranto proceeding?
Quo warranto proceedings, Your Honor, is a proceeding wherein the position of a particular is being questioned as to his qualifications, Your Honor, or if he is entitled to that particular position.
I have read your answer to the questions or to your, your sample decision writing. There is a proposition that there is no such thing as illegitimate children or child because he had nothing to do with the circumstances of his birth, but only illegitimate parents. Do you agree with that?
Beg your pardon, Your Honor.
Do you agree with the proposition that there should not be any illegitimate children, that they are all children are legitimate because they had nothing to do with their status?
Yes,
Because
Your
the
Honor.
parents,
I
you
agree with that.
That
I-
there should be no
Legitimate children,
Illegitimate
only
children.
illegitimate parents, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, if you believe in that, do you believe that the so-called illegitimate child, which you consider to be legitimate, can inherit from the relatives of his father?
Yes, Your Honor, because they are still the children, Your Honor. They have the bloodline of, say, the grandfather, Your Honor.
You are changing your answer here.
No, I'm just following the law with all due
Are you
respect,
just
Your Honor.
following the... No.
Article 992.
Okay. Under the Constitution, there is a provision on equal protection clause.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this law violative of that provision, constitutional provision? Personal opinion only.
It might appear that
What? Why might?
it's violated the equal protection of the law.
Why might? You're not sure? You're not...
Because, yes, Your Honor, because there is also a reason why Article 992 of the Civil Code was promulgated, Your Honor. It has also its own reason.
Yes. And what your personal opinion? You will be joining the ranks. This is a pending case, Aquino versus Aquino.
I'm not aware that
petition-
it's a pending case before
Yes,
this
it
court.
is a pending case, and it has been given due course, and it was heard in oral arguments. Your personal opinion.
My personal take on this matter, Your Honor, is for as long as the law is still there, then I would abide by the law, Your Honor, or by what is stated in the statute.
But there is also that constitutional provision discriminating against illegitimate children, quote unquote.
Well, of course, it seems that there's a conflict between the Constitution and that particular statute, Your Honor.
If there is a conflict between the Constitution and a statute, what is your view?
My view there, Your Honor, is I don't think that the Supreme Court would be able to amend that particular statute, Your Honor. Otherwise, I will call that judicial legislation already, Your Honor. And of course, unless Congress would be able to amend the law.
Concluding it as unconstitutional because it infringes upon that right to equal protection. Is that judicial legislation?
Yes, Your Honor, because,
Are they amending the law or just interpreting?
and of course, sometimes, Your Honor, there's
What
hardly,
is the distinction between amending the law and interpreting the law?
of course, it is two different matters, Your Honor.
Oh.
Because amending the law is tantamounts to judicial legislation. Interpreting the law is the rule-making power of the judiciary, Your Honor.
So if a law is violative of a constitutional provision, if if you are a justice, should you be appointed, what is your take on that?
My take on that, Your Honor, is the law is violated, then we follow the Constitution, Your Honor.
So you declare it as void.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So you will change your answer here.
Yes, Your Honor.
About the good conduct time allowance, you read you're aspiring to be a Supreme Court justice. You read the law.
Yes, sir.
What are the 3 articles amended there?
I think it's Article 99, something like that, Your Honor.
Substance not, you did not cite the specific article, just the substance of those articles.
Frankly, Your Honor, I could no longer remember those amendments, Your Honor, introduced by RA 10592.
But you read something about it.
Yes, Your Honor. Once, Your Honor.
Once,
Yeah.
the newspaper, or you read the original, the decision.
The decision, Your Honor.
You read the
Yeah.
decision.
No, not decision. It's the law, Your Honor. Not
You read the
decision.
law. You have not read the decision.
No, Your Honor.
Inmates versus Laila de Lima, inmates of National Belief.
No, I have not
You
read
have
that decision, Your Honor.
But you answered earlier, but you have an idea of the good, because
Yes, sir.
this
Yes.
is just an amendment.
Yes, sir.
Good conduct time allowance has been there in the statute long before these amendments. Dinagdagan lang ang time. I will read to you the third the provision of Article 9 regarding Article 99. Whenever lawfully justified, the Director of the Bureau of Corrections, the Chief of Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, and the Warden of the Provincial District, Municipal, or City Hall, City Jail, shall grant allowances for good conduct. Such allowances, once granted, shall not be revoked. You know, the Director of the Bureau of Corrections and the other persons mentioned are under the Department of Justice or Secretary of Justice. Are there decisions with respect to granting of time allowances final? What is your taking? Such allowance, once granted, shall not be revoked.
If it was erroneously granted, Your Honor, it should always be revoked.
Can you expand on that?
Meaning, just like now, what's happening right now, it appears that there were considerations for giving good time allowance being made by the inmates or by the PDLs. So from the very beginning, Your Honor, the practice or that act is already illegal and void. So why should that action of granting of allowance of time allowance should not be revoked? It should be, because it's void from the very beginning.
Your basis are what? Your basis for saying that are what?
Well, I've said, Your Honor, is I think there's an old jurisprudence, a 1967 case, Your Honor, the case of People versus Fidel Tan, Your Honor. That's my basis, Your Honor.
About this provision, such allowances once granted shall not be revoked.
I think my other justification for that, Your Honor, is that although once granted is revoked, but since it was illegally granted by government employees, the state should not be bound by the erroneous acts or illegal acts of its employees.
Should you not give good faith to our officers in the absence of any evidence?
Yes, sir. I don't think that, these allowances granted, Your Honor, does not depend on the good faith of the people in the Bureau of Corrections or on the good faith of the prisoners, Your Honor. It should always be based on the provisions of the penal code, because the penal code states that the sentence must be served. Since they were not able to serve the sentence, then that good conduct allowance should be revoked.
Or should you say the granting of the time allowances are void from the beginning because there was an illegitimate or illegal consideration?
Yes, Your Honor.
Suppose the reason given was that the grant, with respect to those sentenced to life imprisonment, the grant was not approved by the Secretary of Justice. What can you say of that?
In this particular case, Your Honor, based on the revised penal code, it does not say there under the RPC that the approval of the Secretary of Justice is required, Your Honor.
But there was an administrative circular and it was not followed. It was not even followed by the BGMP officers in Davao.
BGMP, Your Honor, with all due respect, is under the DILG, Your Honor.
Yes. And even a warden is allowed. There's that power. Warden of a provincial, district, municipal, or city jail.
Yes, under the
And
RPC, Your Honor.
they did not refer it to the Secretary of Justice.
I cannot read as far as BGMP, Your Honor. Since they are under the DILG.
Referring to the warden. He or she did not refer it to the Secretary of Justice.
I'm not aware of that, Your Honor. As far as I'm concerned, BGMP jail wardens are reporting to the DILG, Your Honor. I don't think they are matrix with the DOJ.
So they refer the matter to the Secretary of Justice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Based on my readings of the revised penal code.
You're familiar with land cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh. What is an assurance fund?
That fund, Your Honor, is collected from, of course, the parties transacting with respect to their lands. And the purpose of that is when the titles issued by the government is to assure them that the same titles are, are valid, and if the same are defective, they shall be compensated by this assurance fund.
When do you apply for the assurance fund? What is the period?
Honestly, Your Honor, it was a long time ago that I've read the same, Your Honor. The last time was when I was in college, Your Honor.
Okay, 6 years. When does the period begins to run? Begin to run.
If I may guess, Your Honor, around the time maybe a complaint was, was filed, and or upon discovery of the fraud, if there was any, then that period begins to run.
Okay, that will be my last question. From registration by the innocent purchase.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You're excused, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Esparó, and good luck. The candidate to be interviewed next, Your Honors, is Honorable Associate Justice Samuel H. Garland of the Court of Appeals.
Take your seat, please, Justice. You will be interviewed first by Judge De Monteverde.
Thank you, Justice Mendoza. Justice Garland,
Good morning, sir.
good morning. And how are you today?
I'm good, Your Honor.
You're physically fit?
Yes, Your Honor.
How is your medical record?
Although I have a high blood cholesterol and also my blood sugar is a little bit high, although it is not yet diabetic, Your Honor.
But you're taking medication,
Just a maintenance for my high blood, Your Honor.
high blood pressure. Okay, thank you. Now, going over your educational background, I have noticed that your pre-law is that of a Bachelor of Science in Zoology.
That's right, Your Honor.
How come you proceeded to law instead of the medical profession?
It was my first dream then, Your Honor, when I was still young.
To be a lawyer or
to
a
become
doctor?
a doctor, Your Honor. That
to
was
become
my
a
first
doctor,
choice,
okay.
to become a doctor, considering that I came from the province in a fifth class municipality, and I have seen the deprivation of the people in the rural areas of medical attention. So I was then inspired and motivated to take up medicine. But along the way, Your Honor, while I was taking up pre-med in Manila,
You met somebody?
No, Your Honor, because of, although I met my wife in my pre-med course, Your Honor, I shifted into, I decided to shift into law, Your Honor, because
For what
of,
reason?
because of student activism, and I also joined politics at that time, Your Honor. In 1975, I was elected as Kabataan Barangay Chairman. We were the first Kabataan Barangay Chairman elected, and then I also I was also elected as barangay kagawad, Your Honor.
Okay.
So that shifted, that made me shift to law, Your Honor.
You are now 61 years old,
Yes, Your Honor.
and if appointed to the Supreme Court, you still have 9 years before reaching the mandatory age of requirement.
That's correct, Your Honor.
It will be a long, torturous, and rough and rugged road of journey that you will be encountering and riding on. Now, cite to us some ideas of yours and long-term programs that you have in mind that you want to initiate in the judiciary if you will be appointed to the Supreme Court. What reforms do you have in mind?
It's like what I have done in my long stint with the judiciary, Your Honor. I've been in the judiciary for 26 years. I started my career in the judiciary as an MTC judge in La Union for 8 years, then 8 years again in the regional trial court.
So
First-
any reforms that you have in mind that you want to introduce
Yes,
should you ever be appointed as a judge in the Supreme Court?
I made that as a premise, Your Honor, because I will still want to maintain, Your Honor, what I've been doing right now, maintaining my integrity, my independence, which I will, if given the chance, I will have to bring that to the highest court of the land, Your Honor.
It says in your PDS that your current caseload as of June 2019 is at 429 and your average monthly output is 14. Are you satisfied with these figures?
Well, in the sense, I'm not quite satisfied, Your Honor, but it has been my judicial philosophy and practice to do or to write decisions, quality decisions, and it is not and I don't just dismiss cases, Your Honor, based on technicalities. That's the reason why, Your Honor, my disposal is only that way, Your Honor.
So you think you are doing a good job?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Now, recently, the Supreme Court dismissed the petition to allow the same-sex marriage in the Philippines. The petition sought to declare Articles 1 and 2 of the Family Code as unconstitutional. If given a chance to write a dissenting opinion or position about it, what will be the content of it?
Well, if I'll be given the opportunity to write a dissenting opinion, then of course, Your Honor, I will be dwelling on the equal protection clause of the Constitution, and furthermore, the Constitution does not discriminate or does not mention about the sexual or the gender of the individuals who are supposed to enter into a marriage.
So you disagree with the decision of the Supreme Court?
Well, I agree with the decision of the Supreme Court, Your Honor, but if just be given the chance to write a dissenting opinion, then I will capitalize on that particular matter, Your Honor.
In 2017, you also applied for the position vacated by Justice Jose Mendoza.
Yes, Your Honor. It just so happened that I was nominated by my fraternity branch, Your Honor, the International Order of Dimule. So I accepted the nomination, Your Honor.
Now, from that time up to today, what can you consider a qualification that has transpired?
Well, during that time, Your Honor, I was just describe it as the most junior senior member of the Court of Appeals. But right now, Your Honor, I am on deck to be the chairman of the 17th Division.
Are you familiar with Senate Bill number 2065? This is about the Judges at Large Act of 2018.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I'm not
You're
familiar.
not familiar with it. Anyway, this bill seeks to create 100 positions for regional trial courts at large and 50 positions for municipal trial courts at large nationwide, meaning that they can be assigned anywhere as the need arises. So is this the primary solution to this, to help those existing judges who have a caseload quite high? So do you agree to this, that this is a solution, one of the solutions to uncloud court dockets?
Well, I believe that is a very noble bill, Your Honor, in the sense that it will really help in the unclogging of court dockets. The only problem that I can see, Your Honor, the convenience of those judges who will be appointed. Just imagine if you are from residing from Manila and you will be assigned in Mindanao to help an incumbent judge who has a large court docket. Conversely, if you are from the province and you will be coming here in Manila to help a judge with a large court docket.
But you will agree with me that for those who will apply for judges at large and once assigned in a certain place, you have no way but to accept. Otherwise, those persons should not have applied for the position.
Well, presently, Your Honor, it is within the powers of the Supreme Court to detail a judge, even without his consent, to another station within 6 months, Your Honor. So, if ever that is created by law, then, well, if you are not in a position to undergo the rigors of going to other stations, then you are free not to apply, Your Honor.
Okay, Justice. Now, a bill that seeks to provide mandatory basic ROTC training for students in grade 11 and 12 as part of the curriculum was refiled in Congress. Are you aware of it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you agree that ROTC will be revived?
Well, I agree, Your Honor. First,
In what way?
First, during my time, I also undergone ROTC during my college days, Your Honor, and it was discontinued because of what happened in USD, wherein involving a cadet. But then Congressman, I think Senator Cayetano, introduced a bill which eventually became a law abolishing the ROTC. Then there is right now a clamor, Your Honor, and I believe it is under the power of the state to defend itself. So I believe that will again be passed, Your Honor. In first place, it is the clamor of the President, Your Honor.
Despite the opposition of some sectors, you agree with it?
Yes, Your Honor. Even because I believe that it is a constitutional, Your Honor, for the again for the revival of that law on reserve officers training course in view of the constitutional power of the state to defend itself, and also under the Constitution on the provisions in Constitution regarding the welfare of the youth, Your Honor, on nation building. It also speaks of patrimony, patriotism, I should say.
Now, some time ago, the Department of Justice had filed an anti-money laundering charge against 5 executives of the RCBC in connection with the $81 million cyber heist at the Bank of Bangladesh. Still remember it?
Yes, Your Honor. I think that involves the request of the Bank of Bangladesh.
Now, the DOJ had noted that the officers allow the transactions to push through even if there were red flags. Hence, the motion for reconsideration was denied. The doctrine of willful blindness was used by the prosecutors in denying the motion for reconsideration. What is this willful blindness doctrine?
I think, Your Honor, that if you are a superior in that organization, you also assume responsibility if you, in the first place, you acceded to the acts of your subordinates.
Okay, we go to a very basic question, another one. Differentiate the use of doctrine of incorporation from doctrine of transformation.
Sorry, Your Honor, I forgot the...
Kindly read the provisions on this.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, recently, the PNP said that if the release of the heinous crime convicts due to GCTA is revoked, they can still be rearrested without any warrant. Is this correct?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Why?
Because, like what the President said, Your Honor, they're given 15 days within which to surrender themselves. So if they fail to surrender themselves, then they're already evading their sentence, Your Honor. So they can be arrested.
So
even without the need of a warrant of arrest.
Okay. There was these revised rules on continuous trial sometime, maybe the first 2 years. 2 years. Or in 2017 to be specific. But 2 years after, there was this data from the Supreme Court which shows that there is only 30.53% compliant with the continuous trial rule instead of a high rate, no? The objective of this continuous trial is, again, to unclog the dockets of the courts. But after a few years, only a percentage was compliant with this. Now, if appointed as justice in the High Court, what additional programs or projects can you initiate? in order to accelerate the trial process, particularly in the lower courts?
Well, I believe, Your Honor, that we must have to implement strictly the provisions of the law regarding the continuous trial, Your Honor, in the sense that judges must be strict in and also for the lawyers to observe the continuing trial, Your Honor, because what happened in the field, Your Honor, is the lawyers themselves are the one creating the clogging of court dockets for the reason that they have so many weapons on their part to prolong the proceedings, Your Honor.
But do you think this continuous trial will succeed despite the data coming from the Supreme Court that only a certain percentage is compliant to it, and further that it is more burdensome for the participants?
That's why I have said, Your Honor, the program itself is very good and very noble. It's just the manner of implementation, Your Honor, that has to be strictly enforced.
So you would still agree that the continuous trial should continue?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe so.
What is the doctrine of unilateral binding declaration of heads of state in international law?
Again, I am not quite familiar.
What is the doctrine of unilateral binding declaration of heads of state that is used in international law?
Sorry, Your Honor, I am not familiar.
Okay, my last question, Justice. Convince us that our vote will go for you. My vote will go for you.
As I have just said a while ago, Your Honor, I've been in the judiciary for more than 26 years. I started my career as a municipal trial court judge all the way to the Court of Appeals, Your Honor. And during my stint in the judiciary, I have maintained my independence, my integrity. So I believe, Your Honor, that I am now ready to be in the highest court of the land.
That was my last question, Justice. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Judge de Monteverde, Justice T.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Justice Sam.
Good morning, Your Honor.
I know you personally.
Thank you.
So I'll ask you the difficult questions. Who is a transgender?
A transgender, Your Honor, is a person who changed his or her gender, Your Honor. I'm referring to anatomical change, Your Honor, in the sense that if he is a man, then he changed it, having a penis, then he remove or he have his penis castrated in such a way that it becomes a vagina, Your Honor.
We have a general viewpoint of what a transgender is. What do you call the father or the mother of a transgender?
I don't know if you see a joke, Your Honor, but I still consider him as the father or the daddy of the transgender.
Can you call them the transparent?
Transparent.
You agree that judges should have a sense of humor as well.
Yes, Your Honor. We really need that very much, Your Honor, to lighten the mood.
Let's go to something easier. If you become a member of the court, how would you address the problem of indiscriminate killing of judges in the country? There are a few statistics that would show that some judges have been killed while in line of duty. How would you address it?
Well, the judges must also be given the opportunity to arm themselves, Your Honor, or at least the judges must also be given security. Your Honor.
What about corruption in the judiciary? What remedial measures would you be recommending to the court to address that problem?
Well, it's like what is happening in a court of appeals, Your Honor, and where you once belong. We know for a fact that there are so many what we call as lobbies, Your Honor, in the Court of Appeals. So I think we must be strict on that, so that the perception as if there is corruption in the Court of Appeals will be eradicated or be erased.
What about case delay?
Well,
Case delay of a practical, immediate solution to case delay?
Well, what I can think of, Your Honor, is case delays are not only that is only imputed to the magistrate or to the judge, but it also to the practitioners as well as the litigants themselves. So,
do you think there should be mediation of cases pending before the Supreme Court? There is mediation in the Court of Appeals.
Yes, in the Court of Appeals, Your Honor, even in the lower
courts. Should there
courts.
be mediation in cases before the Supreme Court?
I believe, Your Honor, that there is no necessity of having a mediation in the...
Are you saying that it is impossible for parties to enter into compromise agreement even if the cases are already with the Supreme Court?
Yes, it's still possible, Your Honor, as long as the, if the case is still not yet final and executory, then they still have the prerogative to amicably settle their differences. Your Honor. So
should judges be elected instead of appointed?
Well, it's like in the United States, the lower courts are elected. But here in the Philippines, Your Honor, I believe that we have to maintain the same criteria of having been a judge to be appointed, Your Honor.
With respect to appointment of judges, are you in favor of abolishing the JBC because they ask difficult questions and prescribe difficult written examinations, and instead submit appointments to the Commission on Appointments, where it is easier to talk to 24 members of the legislature?
Well, it is my firm belief and conviction, Your Honor, that the Judicial and Bar Council is a very effective instrument in the selection process to the appointment in the judiciary, Your Honor, as compared to the practice before that it has to be appointed first by the President and to be confirmed by the Commission on Appointments, because in that way, that is also a good process of establishing or affirming the judicial independence, Your Honor.
Is gender and sex the same?
I think it's different, Your Honor.
But do you share the thoughts of some people that people should be allowed to seek their own gender identity?
Yes, Your Honor. Because there are, what I read and learned from people who belongs to the LGBT, Your Honor. Sometimes they claim that it is not. Of course, they don't like to become a gay if only given the chance, Your Honor.
Should parents be consulted in seeking the gender identity of their children?
No, Your Honor, that is personal on the part of the child, Your Honor. So I think that, and in fact, even I know of I even have relatives, Your Honor, who belongs to the LGBT.
You're saying it's an individual choice.
Yes, Your Honor.
So when a child is born, you should not accomplish the birth certificate first until the child grows up and makes a choice as to his or her gender? Is that what you're saying?
Well, there is a case, Your Honor. I think it is. I think it's Kagandahan or the case, Your Honor, wherein it involves a hermaphrodite, Your Honor. At birth, he has the physical appearance of a girl, Your Honor. But along the way, at first he has the girl was registered as a girl by the midwife, Your Honor, because of her physical appearance. But along the way, he now has an appearance. He has now a penis, and even his thinking and his emotion, he is now a man. So that's why he asks that his sex as well as his name be changed to, not really changed, but for the correction, Your Honor, of his
Is it your thought that transgenders are discriminated against in society?
Well, I don't believe so, Your Honor. Sometimes I'm not. It might be politically incorrect on my part, but sometimes.
Do you think they should be allowed to share the toilets, comfort room for women?
I don't believe so, Your Honor, because we have to consider also the rights of the women, Your Honor, to privacy. You can just imagine
So what would be the solution of LGUs to accommodate? Their rights should be protected as well.
Yes,
but
yes.
What would be the solution?
Well,
so you provide a toilet for male, for female, and whatever.
It's like the one being enjoyed now by the PWDs, Your Honor, those who are physically handicapped. Your Honor. I think that the LGUs must also provide, or not even LGUs, even those commercial establishments, to provide even a cubicle, a separate cubicle, which also can be used by those who are physically incapacitated.
Last question. France, the country of France, has banned the use of cell phones and similar gadgets in school. If the same is adopted in the Philippines, prohibiting students from using cell phones, laptops inside schools, will it be constitutional?
I believe so, Your Honor. That will be constitutional.
Constitutional or unconstitutional? Not constitutional?
Well, if it also, well, I have to to qualify now, Your Honor, my answer, because I have to invoke academic freedom. It pertains to private institutions. Then I believe, Your Honor, as compared to a public schools, then I think, Your Honor, that it will violate the academic freedom of those institutions. Your Honor.
And my last question is, what is the neutral desk law signed by the President last month?
I'm not familiar, Your Honor.
You're not familiar? In schools, neutral desk law.
I'm not familiar, Your Honor. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
All right, you just read on that law.
Yes,
it
Your Honor.
provides for to accommodate both left-handed and right-handed students. Okay, thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justice T. Judicial.
Thank you, Mr. Chain, Justice Mendoza. Yes, good morning, Justice Samuel Garland.
Good morning, Your Honor.
What is that? But, how do you view the credibility of the Court of Appeals as a whole?
Well, as a whole, Your Honor, when we are referring to whether well, it's just a guess on my part about what you are trying to drive at. If it is there is corruption in the Court of Appeals, then I believe, Your Honor, as an institution, there is none, Your Honor.
Are there a perceived conflict between the functions of the Ombudsman and the Court of Appeals on the matter of the issuance of temporary restraining order with respect to the dismissal of government functionaries by the Ombudsman?
I don't believe so, Your Honor, because the decisions of the Ombudsman regarding administrative matters are appealable to us by way of certiorari if it's not yet. I mean, I'm referring to preventive suspensions, Your Honor. But once it is decided by the Ombudsman, it will now be by way of a petition for review, and it is within the power of the Court of Appeals to issue temporary restraining orders, Your Honor.
Because there was an occasion for seeking, the IBP seeking for the abolition of the Court of Appeals in the CDO and in Cebu. The scandal which it was then dubbed as TRO for sale. What can you say about this?
Yes, that is the stigma we feel right now, Your Honor, because of public perceptions that TROs in the Court of Appeals are being can be bought or but that's the reason why, Your Honor, I myself sometimes I refuse in issuing TROs, and in my recollection I have only issued two TROs which involves labor cases, Your Honor.
What about labor cases?
Because
Decisions coming from the NLRC, the Commission?
yes, Your Honor, it comes from the National Labor Relations Commission.
All right, last year, the Court of Appeals reversed the 2016 order of the Ombudsman, which dismissed re-elected Mayor Sagay on the ground that was still covered by the condonation doctrine. Could you discuss this doctrine as applied in that case you penned?
Well, Your Honor, the infractions or the unlawful act against alleged against Mayor Sagay, Your Honor, was committed in his previous position as a mayor. Then he was again elected, Your Honor, on the same position. In that case, Your Honor, although it was not raised as an issue, particularly the condonation, the defense of condemnation, Your Honor, but in the pleadings and even in the memorandum, Your Honor, it is very apparent as to the condemnation doctrine, Your Honor, being raised.
May the court apply the doctrine of condemnation in favor of an elective public official's motu proprio?
As a rule, no, Your Honor. It has to be raised as an issue. But as I have said earlier, Your Honor, if in the pleadings itself, if it's in the record, it appears that there is also the condemnation doctrine also applies, then it can also be done, Your Honor.
What is the most difficult challenge you have faced as Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals?
Sometimes, Your Honor, in how to agree or disagree to my colleagues, Your Honor.
And how did you manage it?
Because in that situation, I just give you an illustration. Or in that situation, I was caught between whether to agree with my chairman. I was still the junior then, Your Honor. Whether I have to agree with my chairman or with my senior. So that was a great challenge on my part, Your Honor, because they are both my friends. So I have also to decide based on my independent evaluation of the case, Your Honor.
What did you learn from it?
Well, I learned that in those instances, then I have to be firm and to be guided, but by what I believe to be the right decision, Your Honor.
What do you consider your most significant career as an Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals?
Well, I cannot think of any. I cannot think of a most significant, Your Honor, except that in my stint as a Justice of the Court of Appeals, I have maintained proper decorum in dealing with my colleagues, and also, Your Honor, by maintaining my judicial independence and integrity, Your Honor.
If you could start your career over again, what would you do differently?
Well, to be a farmer, Your Honor, because that
Why?
was my passion, Your Honor. Even when I was still a child, during the Green Revolution project of then President Marcos, Your Honor, I was so engrossed and passionate enough to be a farmer, Your Honor.
And what have you done professionally that is not an experience you would want to repeat?
To be active in my organization, in the Corpus Progression, Your Honor.
Your organization?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have listed membership in the various organizations. As a magistrate, do you consider having so many friends and acquaintances from said organizations a curse or a blessing?
Don't consider it as a curse, Your Honor, because although I have so many organizations and so many friends, I still and I also socialize with them, Your Honor, attending meetings, but they never influence me, Your Honor, regarding my status as a magistrate, Your Honor.
You listed several professionals as your references. How do these individuals know your professional competence?
Well, it's like Justice Jean Paul Henry Inting, Your Honor. We've been together way back when we were in the Public Attorney's Office in Quezon City. Then we were also RTC judges in Quezon City, Your Honor. That's why I place his name as one of my references, and also Justice Rodil Salameda, Your Honor. He is my neighbor in the Court of Appeals, Your Honor, and most of the time we see each other. So that's the reason why, Your Honor, I place also his name as my references, Your Honor. My references.
You listed other as lawyers.
They are my my court attorneys, Your Honor.
Should any of them approach you, ask for a favor in cases or you're handling, how are you going to stand your ground without offending them or without burning bridges?
That's the reason why they were my my references, Your Honor, because they know me very much. That although we can socialize and we can be good friends, but they also respect my my independence, Your Honor. They as what has been happening, Your Honor. They don't insist, or they don't enforce to me what they want, Your Honor.
What specific reforms will you undertake if and when you are nominated, appointed as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court to make a substantial contribution not only to the benefit of the bar, the bench, but to the private sector?
Well, what I can think of, Your Honor, is that we should exert our judicial independence, Your Honor, in the sense that we must have to project the judiciary to the public, that we decide cases without fear or favor, Your Honor.
Judicial independence, about how important is judicial ethics in the performance of the magistrates?
That's the reason why, Your Honor, that it is very important, Your Honor, and in fact, I even agree to what is going on right now in the College of Law, wherein it is now legal ethics is now taken up in the first year, unlike in our time that it is taken in the fourth. That it was a subject in the fourth year.
All right, thank you. That was my last and final question, and good luck, Justice.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Judge Ilaw. Justice Garland, you you said you were a former member of the Kabataang Barangay,
Yes, Your Honor.
not Kabataang Makabayan.
No, Your Honor.
What did you learn from being a Kabataang Barangay member that you can bring or contribute to the Supreme Court?
I learned about leadership, Your Honor, and also to be a law-abiding citizen.
So you are a leader and
A good follower, Your Honor.
law-abiding citizen
Yes,
today,
Your
up to today.
a leader and a good follower, Your Honor, in the sense that if ever be given the chance to be in the Supreme Court, then in considering that it is a collegial body, then I am a team player, Your Honor.
How about from the Order of Dimole for being a member there? What did you learn from that order which you can bring or contribute to the Supreme Court?
Yes, again, Your Honor, that in the Order of Dimole, we have the cardinal virtues, and a Dimole must be a good leader and as a man. So we must have to maintain our integrity, Your Honor.
You are aspiring as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. So you must have prepared for this interview.
Yes, Your Honor. I also reviewed, Your Honor,
So,
my notes, Your Honor.
so you read the rules, the internal rules of the Supreme Court.
But not much, Your Honor. But
Much,
at least
okay.
I have read
Okay.
part or a portion of the internal rules.
Portion. What is the rule on the load of a new justice?
Well, in the Court of Appeals, Your Honor, once you are newly appointed, then you will inherit the docket of the one whom you are replacing, Your Honor. And I think in the same is true in the Supreme Court, Your Honor.
You in the Court of Appeals, you inherit, there is no limit or condition.
Well, we have what we call as the equalization, Your Honor, of court cases, in the sense that although you only assuming that the justice whom you are replacing has a court let's say of only 10, it doesn't necessarily follow, Your Honor, that you will only be limited to the 10 cases, Your Honor. We have what we call as the equalization of court cases, Your Honor.
And what is the rule in the Supreme Court
I think that is
regarding
also.
also equalization?
I think that is also the same in the Supreme Court, Your Honor.
Can you expound further?
That you will also be receiving the cases handled by the judge who retired and whom you are replacing, Your Honor.
Is that rule absolute?
I don't believe
Suppose
so.
you receive, you inherited a big number more than the average. Should it be reduced? What does the rule say?
I don't think I'm not quite sure, Your Honor, but this is just an honest, intelligent guess, Your Honor, because I wasn't able to read that, Your Honor. But I believe that you cannot refuse to accept, although it is more than the court dockets of the other incumbent, the justices, Your Honor.
Do you think it is fair?
Well, honestly, I think it's not fair, Your Honor.
It is fair.
No, Your Honor.
No. What do you intend to do about it? Should you be appointed as an associate justice?
Well, I think we have to revisit if that is under the rules, internal rules. Then I think we have to revisit it, Your Honor.
In your sample decision, this is actually based on an actual case pending in the Supreme Court. You wrote that the law prohibits I have difficulty reading your pero
Yes, Your Honor. I myself sometimes I cannot read my handwriting, Your Honor. That's I'm sorry for that, Your Honor.
is your view on the proposition that there is no such thing as an illegitimate child because he had nothing to do with the circumstances of his birth?
Precisely, Your Honor, that was the dissenting opinion of Justice Hugo Gutierrez in the case of Diaz versus Intermediate Appellate Court, wherein the Justice Hugo Gutierrez found it to be unjust to those illegitimate children, Your Honor, because they, in the first place, it was not their choice to become illegitimate, Your Honor, and first of all, they don't have control whether their children, their parents failed to, although there are no prohibitions or disqualifications for them to be married. It just so happened that they opted not to be married and they just cohabited as common law spouses, Your Honor.
What was the rule that was initiated in that case? Not
In that case, Your Honor, it speaks of the iron curtain doctrine, wherein although the children has the right of representation, but because of Article 992, wherein the illegitimate children cannot inherit from their legitimate parents or relatives.
Do you think that law is constitutional?
Well, the question now, Your Honor, is how we define relatives, Your Honor. But as I answer it in my decision writing, Your Honor, I believe that relative has to be interpreted as encompassing, Your Honor. It encompasses whether whether it is collateral or into the direct line, Your Honor. So I believe that when the law is clear and there is no room and there is no ambiguity, then we have to interpret it as it is, Your Honor.
Is it not a violation of the constitutional provision on equal protection clause?
That's the reason why, Your Honor, I tried to read the dissenting opinion of Justice Hugo Gutierrez in.
Do you agree with his dissenting opinion?
Yes, Your Honor, because it's really unjust, Your Honor, for illegitimate children, as I have said. Why should we deprive illegitimate children from inheriting from their grandchildren? And we know for a fact, Your Honor, that in our culture grandparents does not distinguish whether their grandchildren are illegitimate or illegitimate.
What is the there in the Iron Curtain rule? What is the blameless ignorance rule or doctrine?
I'm sorry, Your Honor,
That's in the prescription of cases in the Sandigan Bayan.
I'm not familiar, Your Honor.
You're not familiar. It was first mentioned in the Desierto case and repeated in the Del Rosario versus People case.
Sorry, Your Honor, I'm not familiar with the case.
Assurance fund.
Assurance fund.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. This pertains to it's like an insurance in life like an insurance when it comes to when we're referring to the private sector, Your Honor.
If you are an aggrieved party, when can you file an application for payment under the assurance fund?
Before the Commission on Audit, Your Honor.
No, when? Okay, what is the prescriptive period?
I think 10 years, Your Honor.
This 6 years, beginning from where?
From the well, I don't like to make a guess, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar.
You have not encountered such a case?
Not yet, Your Honor.
When you were an MTC, RTC, or CA, assurance fund?
Not yet.
The prescription period runs from the registration by the innocent purchaser and actual knowledge of the title holder. I think this is an easy question for you. If you are a winner in an election contest, how can you be deemed officially elected?
Can you repeat the question, Your Honor?
Winner in an election contest, how can you be deemed officially elected?
When you are proclaimed, Your Honor, as the winning candidate, Your Honor.
And if you are proclaimed, you can take your seat and
Well, you have to
perform
first,
the
of course, you have to take your oath, Your Honor, to the office, Your Honor.
Can you explain, tell us briefly about the case of the usurpation against Ongsiaco Reyes, which you penned?
Well, in that case, Your Honor, the it involves, Your Honor, the Congressman Alan Lord Velasco, and so there was a case filed before the office of the city prosecutor involving the usurpation of public office by Reyes, Your Honor, and so because in that case the Congress had already declared or even the Supreme Court had already declared the Alan Lord Velasco as the winner, but still Congressman Reyes still continued his or her assumption in the Congress, and in fact, Congress already. I mean, I'm referring to the lower house, Your Honor, House of Representatives, was already declared to vacate the position, Your Honor.
After the Supreme Court rendered that decision, Congress did not execute it. Can you blame her for that? Usurpation.
I think so, Your Honor. There's already usurpation because it was already declared to vacate the office, Your Honor.
And that was only probable cause.
Yes, Your Honor.
You wanted to be a farmer all along?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is your view on the tarification law?
Well, we have to look also into the welfare of the farmers, Your Honor. We have to take that into the government has to take that into consideration, Your Honor.
Are the rights of the farmers, constitutional rights of the farmers, violated there?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
You have not studied it.
No, Your Honor.
In the Court of Appeals, how many times have you dissented?
I can no longer remember, Your Honor. But most of the time, I go with the ponente, Your Honor.
But you have dissented.
Yes, Your Honor. I think there were. I don't know if there were occasions
More
that
than
I also.
five? More than five?
No, Your Honor. I think
Less than five. Which opinions prevail? Yours or the opponent's?
I think it was the ponente, Your Honor, that prevails.
Your dissent did not prevail.
Yes, Your Honor.
Going back to that Aquino versus Aquino case, is there a provision of law granting custody rights, granting the father custody rights over an illegitimate child, quote unquote?
Yes, Your Honor. Under I think under the family code, the illegitimate father has also a right to custody, Your Honor.
Custody. But if there is an issue of custody regarding the grandparents and the father, who should prevail?
Well, it should be the parents, Your Honor.
Grandparents, the mother died already. The grandparents
Or the father.
father.
But it should be given to the father, Your Honor.
should you not consider the best interest of the child?
Well, I was of the impression that the father is in a position to take care of the child for his or her own interest, best interest, Your Honor.
You are familiar with the present controversy on the good conduct time allowance.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are familiar with the law.
I have read also, Your Honor.
The law. Oh. What are the 3 articles in the revised penal code which were amended?
Well, Article 29, Your Honor, regarding preventive imprisonment. Then also the Article 97, the good conduct time allowance. 98, the loyalty allowance, Your Honor. And 99, as to who can has the power to implement the good conduct time allowance, Your Honor.
Okay, who?
Well, before, Your Honor, it's only the director of prisons, but it was expanded, Your Honor, in the sense that it can also be exercised by the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, by the city warden or the provincial warden, Your Honor.
Are there decisions final?
Yes, Your Honor. In the case of People versus Tan, and also the case of the city jail warden of Manila, Your Honor.
Should not their decisions be reviewed by the Secretary of Justice?
That is the what is being in the news, Your Honor, that it has to be reviewed by the Department of Justice regarding the acts of the director of the National Bilibid Prison, Your Honor, because the National Bilibid Prison is under the control and supervision of the Secretary of Justice, Your Honor.
But it is not stated here in Article 99 that it should
Yes,
be
Your
reviewed.
Honor, it's not.
It is not.
Yes.
But should it be reviewed?
Considering, Your Honor, that under the power of control, like the power of the President to control the bureaucracy, and considering that the Secretary of Justice is the alter ego of the President, and invoking now the power of control, then I believe, Your Honor, that because there is a distinction between the control and supervision. So I think, Your Honor, that the Secretary of Justice also has the power to review and even to disregard the decision of the Director of Prisons, Your Honor.
In this case, in Article 99, there is no requirement here that it be reviewed by the Secretary of Justice. If it is not reviewed by the Secretary of Justice, is the grant of good time allowances void?
Not necessarily, no, Your Honor, not necessarily. You know.
The President ordered their arrest.
Because of the... yes, Your Honor, because of, as I have said, under the control power of the power of control available to the executive, Your Honor.
What is your view on this? Such allowances are once granted shall not be revoked.
But if there are irregularities in the giving of the allowance, Your Honor, then
if there are irregularities.
Yes, Your Honor.
So there are none. What should be the presumption?
Well, the presumption, if there are no irregularities, then it is presumed that the in the regularity in the performance of the functions of that public official, Your Honor. So, yeah, although, as I have said earlier, it can still be reviewed, Your Honor, by the higher bureaucracy.
What is the basis of that? A law or a circular?
I'm not quite familiar whether there is a law or
You agree that a law is a law prevails over a circular.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, sir.
So under Article 99, the grant by these persons are final.
If that person is the person, I mean, is
Yes,
the one
person,
authorized,
he is,
as stated in
they
Article
are named-
99. You know.
They are named here.
That's the reason why, Your Honor, in the case of People versus Tan, it was invalidated in the sense that the person who issued the certification of good conduct time allowance, or the one who released the inmate, was not the one authorized by law, Your Honor.
They are authorized. I'm referring to this person named in Article 99. In Tan, the person who signed was not authorized. In Article 99, the persons who can grant the allowances are named here. Such allowances, once granted, shall not be revoked. Does that mean that their grant is final?
As I have said earlier, Your Honor, I am now speaking of the pronouncement of the President. As I have said earlier, that the President still has the power of control, Your Honor, over the bureaucracy.
So you do not believe that such allowances cannot be revoked?
It can be revoked, Your
Can be
Honor.
revoked. So you will declare this law what? If a case is brought before you, you will declare this portion what?
Unconstitutional, Your Honor.
What basis?
On the
What unconstitutional? What constitutional provision was infringed or will be infringed?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I cannot think at this time of.
Retired. Thank you very much, Justice.
Thank you,
Your
Your Honor.
excuse.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you and Godspeed, Justice Garland. It's almost 12, Your Honors. Would you like to continue po? The last candidate to be interviewed, Your Honors, this morning is Honorable Sandigan Bayan Associate Justice Oscar C. Herrera Jr.
Justice Herrera, you will be interviewed first by Judge De Monteverde.
Yes, good morning, Your Honors.
Thank you. Thank you, Justice Mendoza. Justice, good morning.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your medical record is not encouraging. Am I correct?
Well, yes, Your Honor. I think that's normal for my age, but I can still do some exercises every day. As a matter of fact, exercise every day.
Aside from exercises, what other things have you done to alleviate your concerns on your physical and medical
Well,
condition?
I undergo regular medical checkup, Your Honor. Always make it a point to see my doctor.
Do you take any medication?
Yes, Your Honor.
How
My
often?
every day, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, these medical concerns of you are frequent, or
I think it's the usual concern of people my age, Your Honor. Hypertension, so I take maintenance medicine for hypertension. I am diabetic because both my parents were diabetics, Your Honor. So I take medicine for diabetic.
does it distract you from quality of work that you perform?
I don't think so, Your Honor. I can still play basketball. I regularly play
Yeah,
basketball.
playing basketball is different from writing decisions.
Yes,
So,
Your Honor.
that's physical, but going into mental conditioning.
I don't think so, Your Honor. It's not affected really my mental
Are you married?
capability. Yes, Your Honor.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 children, Your Honor.
Ages?
One is, I think, 31. The other one is 26, 27.
Okay. You were appointed in your current position by the former President, Noynoy Aquino.
That is true, Your Honor.
And 8 years have passed since then. What do you think is your most significant contribution to the Sandigan Bayan?
Well, I headed the Rules Committee of the Sandigan Bayan. In fact, I'm the chairman right now. And the 2018 revised internal rules of the Sandigan Bayan was approved late last year. In fact, we had 3 launchings of that internal rules just a few months ago. It was launched here in Manila with the Chief Justice as the keynote speaker. It was also launched in Davao City for the Visayas, for Mindanao, and in Cebu, Your Honor.
You were the one who crafted these internal rules?
No, it's a committee, Your Honor, made up of
But you headed the
justices.
committee?
Yes, I headed the
Or
committee.
you were a member of it?
I'm the chair of the committee, Your
Chair,
Honor.
okay. Your PDS says that your last seminar or training was way back in 2008. It was the conference on promoting peace through law.
Actually, I cannot recall anymore, Your Honor,
anyway.
the number of seminars that I have attended.
Anyway, assuming that it was correct, that
Yes.
it was in 2008
Yes.
that you took the last conference or seminar. How do you keep abreast of the new laws and issuances or any development in the legal world aside from your teaching job?
Well, I, of course, keep myself abreast of jurisprudence insofar as cases being handled by the Sandigan Bayan, meaning cases under the jurisdiction of the Sandigan Bayan, no? Particularly jurisprudence, development in the area of graft and corruption, Your Honor, because that's the what we do in the Sandigan Bayan. No?
You received various awards for judicial excellence during your stint as RTC judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you think this can be considered as an advantage in vying for the position of Associate Justice?
Well, I hope so, Your Honor.
You
Honestly,
hope so?
I hope so.
In what way that you are hoping so? That
Well,
you are hoping that this would be an advantage to you?
Well, I think that will speak, these awards will speak well of my performance as a member of the judiciary. One of them is the Centennial Award. I think only 8 or 7 judges were given that award, and I'm the only surviving one. Meaning I'm the only one left in the judiciary who is a recipient of that award. No?
Okay. Now, Justice, are you sensitive to criticisms?
Well, I welcome criticism, Your Honor, please.
What if the criticism is destructive?
Even if it is
How-
destructive,
how-
Your Honor, I think
how do you react to it?
I improve myself by knowing criticisms about me. I'm able to deal with them as matters that should be treated as constructive. So So,
Even if the
I-
criticism is towards your personality?
Yes, Your Honor. I think one should be open to hear criticisms about himself or herself, no? At least for purposes of doing something about it, Your Honor. In terms of improving himself if the criticism is negative.
When former President Arroyo was acquitted from the plunder case filed against her, many critics claimed that the Supreme Court engaged in judicial legislation. What is judicial legislation and what is your take on this?
Well, my understanding of judicial legislation is the court coming out with a law, something like that, because legislation means lawmaking, Your Honor, no?
And what is your take on this?
The matter of...
on the matter of judicial legislation.
Well, I really don't think that court should come out with the judicial legislation, Your Honor. I don't think that the observation that the Supreme Court indulged in judicial legislation in deciding that case, you know. I think it was decided on the merits of the case. You know.
The President last Wednesday, echoing what my colleagues had stated, ordered those who have been released under the good conduct time allowance law to surrender within 15 days and said that there is a law that will serve as a legal basis for the rearrest order. If this matter will be elevated to the Supreme Court as your first case, if
Yes.
you be appointed as an associate justice, how will you write your dissenting opinion?
Dissenting opinion. Well, the arrest would be a warrantless arrest. Definitely, it will be a warrantless arrest. So it has to be justified under one of the instances of valid warrantless arrest provided for in our rules. No? But I think it can be justified, Your Honor. I am not inclined to render a dissenting opinion. I saw the President on TV when he made that statement during the press conference, and I think it's a well-meaning statement. He has the interest of the country at heart. Now, I'm referring, when I said that it can be justified under the provisions of the rules, they say that the release was illegal, the grant of good conduct time allowance was void, is tainted with corruption. So these prisoners left the facility without a valid reason to do so. In effect, they escaped. It can be that this is only my opinion, Your Honor. No?
Yeah, yes. Go ahead.
So one of the grounds for one of the instances of valid warrantless arrest is in the third paragraph, I think, of Section 5 of 113. Now it says that a prisoner who escapes from a penal institution where he's serving sentence can be arrested without a warrant. And there's another provision, Your Honor.
Yes, what is that?
I got interested in this thing. No, I think it's Section Rule 113 of Section 13 of the same Rule 113, which says that if a person is lawfully arrested or escapes, he can be retaken or rearrested without a warrant. No? So if we treat that matter of them leaving the prison facility on the basis of a void paper, no, it's void, it's illegal, it's tainted with corruption, then they escaped because when the rule says the person lawfully arrested escapes or is rescued, no, the term rescued there is an illegal act, so it can be classified as an illegal act on the part of those who helped them leave the facilities, and therefore they were rescued. This is just my thoughts on the matter.
Okay.
No? Of course,
Your
there
thoughts
are,
welcome. We welcome you.
yes, of course, there are those who may have been released on the basis of a valid release order. There may be those who were released but were really entitled to a good conduct time allowance. That's the complication there. But it can be justified, I think, no, on the basis of those two provisions. That is just my opinion,
Yeah,
Your Honor.
thank you. Now, what is the difference between sovereignty and sovereign rights?
Sovereignty and sovereign rights. Well, sovereignty is sovereign right is the right, you know, not to. I am not really very well conversant with that. It's the right of a sovereign, no. To, honestly, Your Honor, I'll be honest.
Anyway, just
My
thought
field
of
is
a food for
graft and
thought,
corruption,
no?
Your Honor.
For the Philippines, do we have sovereignty or sovereign rights over the exclusive economic zone?
Exclusive economic zone. I think in one of the papers that I read, as far as the exclusive economic zone is concerned, our right is over the resources, Your Honor. I have been confused about exclusive economic zone, territorial waters. I think as far as exclusive economic zone is concerned, it's about our right over the resources. Where we have exclusive economic right as
What do you understand by locus standi?
locus standing. I think that's the standing of a person to appear in court as a litigant. He has the standing to that's it, Your Honor.
Okay.
He can
Are you familiar with Senate Bill number 2065 or the Judges at Large Act of 2018?
I have not encountered that.
You are not. Kindly go over that.
Yes, Your Honor, I'll do.
Okay, that will be all for me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you and good luck, Justice.
Thank you very much, Justice Tihan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good noon, Justice Herrera.
Good noon, Your Honor.
All right. Aside from your long service in the judiciary, your pedigree, your awards, the records would reflect that your expertise has been honed on criminal cases because of the nature of cases filed
Yes, Your Honor.
in the Sandigan Bayan.
True,
How
Your
would you cope with the varied kinds of cases that will be in the Supreme Court? Will you be able to, there's no doubt you're qualified, but will you be able to cope with it? Will you be
Well,
prepared to handle those other cases?
I think I can do a lot of study to make myself competent in handling cases brought to the Supreme Court. Because when I joined the Sandigan, I never expected really to be appointed as a Associate Justice of the Sandigan Bayan. My preference then was the Court of Appeals. I never thought that I would be handling graft and corruption cases. But when I was appointed to the Sandigan Bayan, a lot of hard work and study enabled me to get familiar with the laws and rules concerning graft and corruption.
In the Sandigan Bayan, can you recall how many times you have dissented in decisions of the division you were part of, whether it be the regular division or a special division?
Maybe 4 or 5, Your Honor. I cannot recall how many.
Personally, do you
times, no.
consider dissenting in a decision a mark of independence?
I would think so, Your Honor, because
Does it also mean that it betrays that you are not a team player in that division?
No, I do not think so, Your Honor. In fact, in my division, where I'm chair, I always respect a member who dissents from the
If you
decision
feel
of the
strongly about a particular issue which is not shared by the majority in your division, what actually is your attitude towards it?
No, as I said, Your Honor, I just respect. No, I think each and every one of us is entitled to opinion. I would like to think that the dissenter is well-meaning and he or she is really putting forward what he believes is right about how the case should be resolved or decided.
We came across a Rappler News which says that you had strong feelings against a decision of the majority in a division relating to the plea bargaining case of General Garcia.
Yes.
And you felt strongly about it. You were vociferous with respect to your opposition against the majority. Is that true?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
So
I would be sanctioned if that is how I wrote my dissent.
you did not file any, you did not threaten to file a complaint against the other members of the division. So that's fake news, you're saying?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. What is your understanding of the condonation doctrine? You've come across this.
Condonation doctrine, I think that has something to do with the one who is in politics and is re-elected. I don't know, I'm not too sure.
In the Binay
about
case,
it.
for example.
Yes, Your Honor. When he is
Was applied in the
re-elected,
Binay case.
Yes.
Do you know the statutory or the constitutional basis of the condonation doctrine? If you know.
I forgot, Your Honor, I read about it, but I've never really encountered in any of the cases that I am handling invocation of the condonation doctrine. No. I must admit that I'm not really too familiar with the...
What is the community service law signed by the President? This is Republic Act 11362, signed by the President last August 8, 2019.
I have not honestly read that law, Your Honor.
Can you make a guess? Community service law.
Service law. The service to the community is encouraged by that law, no?
In lieu of jail term, can community service be imposed by
Well,
law?
I think under the one who applies for probation and is granted probation, one of the things that is required to do is sometimes render community service.
Can you also make a guess who is the author of this law? Just a guess.
I do not know, Your Honor.
You should try to know
But it should
because
be
he
a
might
good
not
law,
vote
Your
for
Honor,
you
if
in the
it-
JBC. What do you understand about a body cavity search?
Body cavity search. This is the first
When
time
you go
that,
when you go to a dentist,
yes.
your dentist looks for cavities, openings in your body.
Body
Is a
cavity.
search, is a body cavity search like the mouth, the anus, the vagina for illegal drugs or contraband valid and constitutional?
Cavities.
Body cavity search for illegal drugs or contraband. So you're talking of the mouth, the anus, the vagina. Is it valid? Is it constitutional?
I have not. Well, I would like to think that that is too much of an invasion of one's privacy.
You said you think it is unconstitutional.
Probably, Your Honor, but I really do not know what the concept really is. But if it's too much of an invasion of one's privacy, and this is one's person.
What
that is
about
involved, no?
screening in an airport and the drug sniffing dogs
Yes.
would signal the presence of drugs in the body
Uh-huh.
of the person passing through the airport, screening airport? That's one of the exceptions, correct?
Then that would be.
So
I
would
would
that
think there will be
be,
probable cause
there,
to
there
let
will
it
be, is that valid and constitutional?
I would like to think that it's valid if, because the search, the canine and all these things at the airport is
What
a
about the
valid
use of
search.
DNA to establish trace evidence at the scene of the crime to establish the presence of the accused at the scene of the crime?
Right.
DNA testing, will that be
Well,
valid and
DNA is
constitutional?
already accepted, Your Honor. I think that would be valid. Use of DNA is already.
In the United
accepted
States, the law enforcement authorities make use of infrared or imaging devices. Will it be valid and constitutional? Let's say they have this device, infrared imaging, from outside of the house. They can ascertain whether there are people inside the house, whether they are in possession of certain contraband from the house, outside of the house. Will that be valid and constitutional?
I think it can be justified as constitutional, Your Honor.
The use of
If it's-
GPS,
GPS. Yes, Your Honor.
the use of drones,
These are modern methods of
are they allowed?
detecting.
Are they allowed?
Well, I really have not done
Can you
study on
venture
that, but
can you venture your thoughts, your
But
opinions?
I
on it?
would like to believe that they can be justified, Your Honor. This is
Because when you go
mechanisms.
to the Supreme Court and you participate in deliberations, you cannot say, I have not read about it. So you're supposed to contribute and
Yes, Your
say
Honor.
something about the
Well, I
issue.
think these are mechanisms to fight criminality. So one way or the other, they can be justified. If these are effective methods, Your Honor, of going after criminals, then we have to find a way to justify.
Do you think transgenders should be given the right to seek their own gender identity? Your opinion, just your opinion.
Well, I think so. Yes, Your Honor.
They should.
They should be given.
Should other people be allowed also to seek their own paternity and filiation of their choice?
Paternity and filiation. Well, definitely one has the right to.
Because if
establish
you're
his
going to
paternity.
grant to a transgender the individual right to choose her own gender identity, despite the fact that he was born male,
Yes.
logically, should it also follow that you should allow a person to select his own choice of paternity and filiation?
Meaning he will be the one to choose who.
To choose his own parents?
I don't think so, Your Honor. It's to be the.
So what's the difference?
the natural
What's the
parent,
difference that you can choose your own gender, but you're going to choose your own parents? What's the difference?
Well, choosing one's parents is definitely.
Gender and
the
paternity
natural
are
parent
both,
would definitely be.
gender and paternity are both reflected in the birth certificate, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's also the consequence of the birth of the offspring.
Yes.
The gender is also known, then the paternity is also known.
Yes.
So why would you say that the child would have the right to seek his own gender identity, but he cannot seek his own paternity or filiation?
Well, he can seek his own paternity and filiation.
So
Yes,
you're saying
yes.
he can now seek his own
I
paternity and
thought
filiation?
Your Honor's question earlier was one can choose his paternity, meaning that
A
definitely
transgender can choose to identify himself as female.
as female.
Okay. Even if the birth certificate indicates
he's a
that he is male.
Uh-huh.
So similarly, should another person be given the right to choose his own parents, even if he is the natural offspring of Juan de la Cruz and
Yes.
Maria Santos?
Well, if he's the natural offspring of Maria de la Cruz, then definitely he has to establish only his paternity and filiation with
Do you
de
think
la
that
Cruz,
all
Your Honor.
persons discriminated against should be protected? Discriminated against.
Yes, Your Honor, I think.
Is there already a law in place that protects discriminated people?
Right now, I cannot.
Senator
Honestly, Your
Binay
Honor, honestly, I
told the media that she is discriminated against because of her own color. And she asked the rhetorical question, is it necessary for her to file a bill to protect people of the same color? That was she said. Now going back to the toilet issues of transgender,
yes.
is it not a fact that midgets, dwarfs, and small people, and even small boys were discriminated against
True.
ahead of transgenders with respect to the use of toilets because they were not given adequate urinals inside the toilet? So I think you agree that they should also be protected.
They should be protected, Your Honor.
All right. That will be my last question. Thank
Thank
you
you,
and
Your
good
Honor.
luck.
Thank you, Justice T. Judge Ilaw.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, good afternoon, Justice Herrera.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is the first time you applied as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
First time, Your Honor.
What took you so long to apply as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court?
Well, well-meaning friends have been telling me that I should at least try. You know, my experience, Your Honor, is that I made it to the Sandigan Bayan on my 13th nomination. And because of that experience, I was reluctant to seek further promotion. I do not want to go through the same experience again, Your Honor. So,
All right, can you tell me something about yourself which is not found in one or in the application requirements?
application requirement. I think in the application requirement, I focused on my activities as a member of the judiciary, Your Honor. But I am also active in my community. Even before I became, even before my appointment as RTC judge, I was already active in my community as a volunteer church worker and oftentimes as an officer of our homeowners association. But I am now, I've been the chairman of the parish pastoral council of my parish, consisting of 17 communities, continuously for the last 6 years. You know. Then I lag a total of 8 years because years back I also served as a chairperson of the pastoral council.
All right, mentioning about being the leader or a member of the organization, civic or professional as one, can you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style, Your Honor. I think that I have been effective as a leader since I have been there for 6 consecutive years as chairman of the parish pastoral council. As I've said, it's actually a total of 8 years, and nobody has objected to my being the chair. I've been telling our parish priest that I'm ready to go anytime. We should give chance to younger leaders because my belief is that there is really no growth if you maintain the same leader again and again. No? But I believe that probably I must have been doing something good, so I've been retained. I also served as president of the UST Law Alumni Foundation for 11 years, Your Honor. I think that's, modesty aside, a record. I would not have been tolerated to serve as president for 11 years unless I did something good, Your Honor. So,
And how do you move or steer people in the direction you wish?
well, I always study whatever I wish to present to my fellow members, particularly officers. But I also hear their comments. No, when it's a collegial body, I make sure that we really make decisions as a collegial body. And that's also what I do as a chairman of the Parish Pastoral Council, and that's what I did when I was president of the Alumni Association. This is Law Alumni Association, Your Honor. When I was president, I was only a judge, and the members were justices of the Supreme Court, justices of the Court of Appeals. You don't really just convince them on what you want to happen, but things happen, and I think some of what I wanted to happen were really appreciated by these people. That's why they happened.
All right, Canon 2 of the Code of Judicial Conduct states that, and I quote,
Yes.
a judge should avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all activities.
Yes.
How
Your Honor.
have you embodied this requirement?
Well, there is only one policy that I maintain, Your Honor, as a judge and as a leader. No compromise with wrong. No? Otherwise, I will not be effective as a member of the judiciary if I would compromise with wrong. No? That is the first rule that I always tell them. No? And then I make sure that everything I do will not really taint my reputation in particular and the judiciary in general. In the Centennial Award that was given to me, the citation of the Supreme Court there made mention of my activities in the community, and the Supreme Court in the citation said that what I've been doing promoted a good image of a member of the judiciary, and I'm proud of that citation, Your Honor, because I've always tried to promote the good image of the judiciary in everything I do. I may have displeased people, I may have committed some shortcomings, but all of these are meant, my actions are meant to do something good for the community, something good for people who I work with. No? That has always been my, how I perform, Your Honor.
What is your present address, Justice?
My present address is number 28 Geraldine Street,
In
Don Jose Subdivision.
Don Jose
Yes.
Subdivision. And prior to this residency, where did you reside?
In San Francisco del Monte, Your Honor. Actually, in the residence of my late father, former Justice, the senior, Your Honor.
What is your reputation in your present community? Your reputation coming from your colleagues,
Yes.
neighbors?
Well, Your Honor, I was persuaded to join again the board of directors of the Homeowners Association. There was an election held just 2 months ago. And to my surprise, I emerged as the top notcher. I obtained the highest number of votes. So I would like to think that that is indicative of the respect, trust, and confidence reposed in me by the members of my community. Of course, I would admit that I have detractors, Your Honors. I don't think, I believe that everywhere there will always be detractors.
Records of us on hand, even at our office, show that administrative cases filed against you.
Yes.
First, respect to the conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service, filed by Blue Crab Foundation Philippines Incorporated.
Yes, Your Honor.
The case was dismissed, but
Yes.
you were advised to desist from further active participation in the management of the affairs of the Homeowners Association to avoid any possible misunderstanding and misperceptions on your judgeship.
Yes.
Now we have at present received oppositions. Some members of the board of Don Jose Heights Homeowners Association, Inc.
Yes.
This is August 19,
Yes, Your
2019,
Honor, I am aware.
for alleged fabricating a board resolution. Another one, some members of the board of Don Jose Heights Homeowners Association, Inc., June 17, 2019, for alleged attempting to take over the leadership of Don Jose Heights. Now given such opportunity for you to comment on this
Thank you, Your Honor. I would appreciate this
oppositions
opportunity,
as
Your
well
Honor.
as the
Yes.
administrative case filed when you were still a judge.
Yes, Your Honor. The one filed by Blue Crab Foundation, Your Honor, that happened, I think, in the middle of 1990s, Your Honor. I was an officer of the Homeowners Association. There was an illegal construction of building at the open space of the subdivision. The ones involved in the construction were telling the community that's supposed to be a chapel to be turned over to the community. But the association was not informed about it. So we checked the papers at Quezon City Hall, and we found out that what was being constructed is not really a chapel, but a civic center of the Blue Crab Foundation, Your Honor. And that is a foundation. It entered into a lease agreement with the city government for 25 years at a rental of 1 peso a year. And we found out that it did not pass the City Council of Quezon City. So when the mayor learned about that, when we brought that to the attention of the mayor, he immediately revoked the contract with the foundation and even canceled immediately the building permit. But I understand that the foundation had already spent about millions because they started the construction. But it's an illegal construction, Your Honor. And even the Regional Trial Court of Quezon City issued a restraining order and thereafter an injunction, Your Honor. It's the former RTC Judge Castillo, Your Honor. He died a long time ago. He passed away already, I think. So that's the real story behind that, Your Honor. So the case was dismissed, Your Honor. So I would like to think that I did something good for the community with my action, Your Honor. And it was actually the parish priest who requested me to look into it because it was being passed upon as a chapel that was being constructed in the open space. Turned out that that is not true. Now, as far as the recent case against me is concerned, I would like to state, Your Honor, that these alleged members of the Don Jose Board of Directors are no longer members of the Board of Directors. They participated in the election and they were all rejected by the community because they are involved in irregularities, Your Honor, one of which is the construction again of a building in the open space. And there is already a final ruling from the Board of Commissioners of the HLRB, not filed by me, Your Honor, but another homeowner, declaring that the construction is illegal. It was without the consent of the homeowners, without approval of the HLURB, and the HLRB held them at fault, the ones who filed the case against me. It was because I exposed this to the community that they want me out of the Board of Directors, and that's why they filed that case.
All right, were you given the opportunity to comment in writing about these two
I just
oppositions?
saw the complaint, Your Honor, after I took the psychological examination, Your Honor, in the afternoon. That was the first time that I got hold of the
All right, but
resolution
if you were
requirement.
given the opportunity, how much time do you need
I'm preparing already. In fact, I'm almost through with my
Can
comment.
we expect
Probably
it,
on Monday, I'll file it, Your Honor.
Can we expect it?
My conscience is clear, Your Honor. It's,
Can we expect it 3 days from today? Or do you have time? Oh,
I will try to, today is Friday, more than anybody else, I'm the one interested in immediately filing my comment, Your Honor. I'll try my best to do it on Monday, but if I cannot do it, Your Honor, probably Tuesday. Not later than Tuesday.
I'll give you.
And I furnish
The council will give you
JBC
5
copy of
days.
that.
5 days from today.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
I have been also a professor teaching in the College of Laws in the Sambeda as well as UST. And everything. So what is your take on a lawyer's continuous self-improvement?
Well, that should be what a lawyer should do, Your Honor, to continuously improve himself, no? For the good of himself and for the good of the people that he serves.
And how do you do it?
Well, continuous study, Your Honor, that's what a lawyer is supposed to do. Our profession requires us to indulge in continuing study, particularly on matters of law. So,
also further studies, further seminars?
yes, Your Honor.
What are your thoughts on the legal education of our country?
The legal
Education.
education. Well, the PhilJA, I am a member of the faculty of PhilJA, a member of the Department of Criminal Law. I think the PhilJA is doing its best to promote continuing judicial education. We have various seminars ongoing. So as far as the Supreme Court through the PhilJA is concerned, I think we're doing okay as far as promoting legal education is concerned.
2 months ago, there was this legal education summit held at the Manila Hotel.
Yes.
And Justice Leonen, as the next bar examination chairman, proposed to follow a pass or fail only system.
Yes,
He also
yes.
wanted to make it possible to hold bar examinations in other places. What's your take on this? And this also a suggested question coming from the Rappler.
I have not really heard of that proposal of Justice Leonen, but there must be something to it if it came from a proposal. The proposal came from Justice Leonen. Something worth looking as far as that is concerned.
Are you in favor of the suggestion of Justice?
I do not really know everything about it, Your Honor.
All right. If appointed, what changes will you effect in the bar examinations?
Bar examination, whether well, I believe that the present method of conducting the bar examination is okay. Of course, we did away, I think, already with the multiple choice, Your Honor. I don't think that is with due respect to the one who advocated multiple choice, I don't think that that is a good test for the aptitude of one taking the bar examination. There is no way to express his reason behind the answer. What is important is to know how one taking the bar examination expresses reasoning.
How many years have you been the Associate Justice of the Sandigan Bayan?
8 years, Your Honor.
So you've been specializing in graft cases for 8 years now.
For 8 years, Your Honor. Yes, that's true.
So how do you intend, if and when you're appointed, to the transition to the High Court?
Well, I will work as hard as I have been doing now to learn the craft, Your Honor, and be a worthy member of the Supreme Court if I am fortunate enough to make it there, Your Honor.
All right, my last question is, could you discuss the phrase reclusion perpetua without eligibility for parole? Are you aware of this in relation to the...
Reclusion perpetua without eligibility. Reclusion perpetua is 40 years. I am not really an expert in criminal law. Is not it's remedial law, Your Honor. Sorry,
It's not your
without
line of field.
eligibility for parole.
All right, thank you, and good luck, Justice.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Judicial. Justice Herrera, did
Yes,
I
sir.
hear you right that you have been a justice in the Sandigan Bayan for 8 years?
8 years. Your Honor.
And you are not an expert in criminal law?
I think I'm an expert in it. I'm not an expert in criminal
You are
law.
not, even
I
if you have stayed there for 8 years.
Well, there are justices there who are better than me when it comes to criminal law, Your Honor, because they're teaching the subject. And
But
I'm
I
not,
think
no.
you have come across this doctrine. It has been mentioned in at least 2 cases.
Uh-huh.
What is the blameless ignorance doctrine?
Blameless ignorance.
It was mentioned in the Desierto case and the Del Rosario versus People case, Sandigan Bayan
I'll
cases.
just venture a guess, Your Honor.
Okay.
I have not read those particular doctrine. Blameless
Ignorance.
ignorance. We have excusable gross ignorance. Probably if the ignorance is not, but it's gross ignorance, then it's ignorance. If it's not gross ignorance, probably one who is guilty cannot really be blamed. As a
It
Your Honor, I
refers-
honestly have not come across
It
that.
refers to the doctrine on, or the rule on prescription period in the Sandigan Bayan or criminal cases. You do remember that?
I do not
You have
remember,
not
but
come
I'll look
across it?
I'll look. Probably I might have read it, but I really cannot because it was not that was never involved in any of the cases. That doctrine was never
So
cited
if
in any of the cases that I handled for the
a
last 8 years.
case, if you are not handling a case, you do not read the other cases.
Well, I do, Your Honor, I do. It's
You
just
do.
that it so happened that with respect to that particular doctrine,
These are
I might
Sandigan
have,
Bayan cases. So
I-
you read Supreme Court decisions also.
yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Okay. In case of violations of SALN, they are filed with the Sandigan Bayan.
Yes.
Yes. When do you file under Republic Act 6713 your SALN or an employee when an employee files an answer?
When do you file the
Yes.
SALN? We are required every year to file our SALN. I think within the first quarter of the year. That is for the past SALN for the past year.
In that law, there are 3 periods. What are those periods?
Honestly, I cannot recall. I might have looked into it under the Code of Conduct for ethical
First is within
standards.
30 days from assumption.
Yes. Okay.
Second is on or before April
Yes.
30 of a year. And the third is within 30 days after separation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have you handled cases regarding SALEN,
Yes, Your
violation of
Honor.
SALEN?
Yes.
Oh, so this is an easy question for you.
Most of the cases.
What is the prescriptive period for violation of Republic Act 6713 regarding SALEN?
The period? I have not looked into it, Your Honor. We have resolved most of the SALEN cases that we have resolved in the recent past where the accused voluntarily pleaded guilty, Your Honor. So, had no opportunity.
Also,
to
in
really
the
do.
case of Rosario versus People, it is 8 years. You do not know that. I read your draft decision on Aquino versus Aquino. Do you know that it is based on a pending case in the Supreme Court?
Aquino versus, I learned after and I am grateful that that is the subject matter of the revision writing examination.
It has been argued that there is no such thing as illegitimate children because they should not be blamed for their being so, but their parents. Do you agree with that view?
That the law says that those born out of wedlock or outside of valid marriage are not legitimate. But we'd rather call them born out of wedlock than refer to them as illegitimate. No?
Illegitimate.
Probably that's the better way to describe them. Born out of wedlock but not illegitimate. No? Of course, when it comes to the application of law, we have to apply the law as it is.
You applied the law.
Yes.
Suppose the law is against the Constitution.
Well, definitely it's to be struck down, Your Honor.
So in your answer
what's the-
here, you said that children born out of wedlock cannot inherit ab intestato.
Well, that's the provision of 992.
Is that not a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution?
Your Honor, I do believe that that provision has to be looked into. There is something to it that should be that it should be looked into. I do not agree with that provision, and there's I have a valid.
So you are
personal
ready
reason.
to tear it down, the Iron Curtain rules.
Yes, Your Honor. I would rather do away with my reason is personal, but I have a grandchild. My only grandchild was born out of wedlock, and I love my grandchild so much, Your Honor.
Oh, good.
That's why I'm grateful that that is the subject. I've never concealed that fact, Your Honor. Even in my community, I openly announced that my one and only grandchild was born out of wedlock, and it's the first time that I learned that I've always been thinking of the future of that grandchild of mine and how much I will possibly leave him with my modest means when I passed away. Only to find out that he is not entitled to inherit from me. I definitely do not agree with that, Your Honor. I told my wife when I came home.
What have you done about it? You executed the will?
That's why I told my wife when I arrived home, we have to execute a will and testament right away.
I see.
But hopefully that provision will be struck down, Your Honor.
When you join the Supreme Court, you will join one faction.
Well, as I said, in the situation that I'm in,
So you
no
agree with
grandparent would want his grandchild, legitimate or illegitimate, to inherit from every grandparent.
So you agree with
think of the
Justice?
best for his grandchild, no?
So you agree with Justice Hugo Gutierrez in the case of Tan? Or Diaz, I mean Diaz.
That's I have not read it. This is the first time that I
Did you
encountered
not
that
cite
case.
it?
Well,
You
I saw
cited
that,
it.
but I lacked the time
You cited
to.
it.
I saw the Diaz case,
I see,
the material that I got hold of at the library, but I lacked the time to take into consideration what the principles were initiated in the Diaz case.
Is there a provision of law granting custody rights to illegitimate children.
Granting custody right legitimate children. Well, whatever will favor the child, legitimate or illegitimate, I'll go for it.
There is a law.
Custody of illegitimate well, the provision, I think, of the civil code or the family code that the child below 7 years of age cannot be taken from the mother is a law on custody as far as the legitimate or legitimate, they cannot be taken away from the custody of the mother. I think that's a law about custody.
What do you consider in case of conflict between, suppose the mother passed away, there is a conflict between the father and the grandparents. What do you consider?
Consider who should have custody? Or
Yes.
parents, and well, definitely the parents, Your Honor. Unless
The best interest of the child.
yes, but the best interest, unless
Yes.
as I said,
You have to
if
conduct
the
a hearing.
Parents,
You have to conduct a hearing to determine
yes.
what is the best interest of the child. Okay. Since you want to revisit that law, so you are a judicial activist. You will be one.
Well,
In judicial activism. Are you one?
I really do not understand the concept of judicial activism, but if writing decisions will change things for the better, without legislating, Your Honor, then
You have not come across the term judicial activism?
well, I've heard it, Your Honor, but I
Heard. What is your judicial philosophy?
well said. As I said first, no compromise with wrong, Your Honor. And we have that provision in the civil code that in interpreting and applying the law, we should presume that the lawmaking body intended right and justice to prevail. No? So I think it is always what will make right and justice to prevail that we should take into consideration.
What is your view on motions for leave of court to file the matter to evidence?
Motion for leave of court.
To file the matter.
Well, I believe in criminal case that's a good requirement. That will prevent indiscriminate filing.
What
of
do you
demurrer to
believe?
evidence.
What do you believe in? Can you be?
I believe that that is a good provision requiring first a motion for leave to file demurrer to evidence in criminal cases. You know. Otherwise, we will see the spectacle of lawyers immediately filing demurrers to evidence after the prosecution rests its case.
Do you agree with the rule?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Oh, you recently heard a case, the issue or controversies regarding good conduct time allowance.
Yes.
You have seen the decision? You have read the decision?
I have not seen the decision, but I read the law, Your Honor. I got curious, so I immediately looked into the provisions
Of the law?
592. Yes. Really think that something has to be done to amend the law.
Can you speak louder?
It has to be amended, I think, Your Honor, because it's not really clear.
What should be amended? How
make clear that those who are
There are-
convicted of heinous
how many
crimes.
provisions of the revised penal code were amended in that law?
How many provisions? I think about five. I
Five?
do not exactly recall. I just
What
looked into
articles?
that.
What articles?
I cannot recall.
Even
Your
the
Honor.
subject only, not the exact article number.
Well,
Anyway, you mentioned that there is a need to amend them. What
yes,
do
that
you-
the
what do
clarifying,
you want
clarifying
to be
that
clarified?
yes, that those
or
who are
amended?
convicted of heinous crimes should not be eligible for good conduct time allowance if that is what is intended by the.
It is not clear in the law.
I think so, Your Honor.
What is not clear in the law?
That because the part of the law mentions about good conduct time allowance, and it does not say that excluded from the coverage are those convicted of heinous crimes. Of course, the first section 1, there is a provision on that, but in a later provision,
Yes.
which repeated the
Yes, section
matter.
1, it
Yes.
amended,
I think the last part, Your Honor, of
Ah.
section 1 says that this law shall excluded from the coverage.
section 1 refers to Article 29. Okay? What is the rule there and what are the exceptions?
The section 1, Your Honor.
The Article 29.
I do not.
Sige, okay.
I just
Article 29
what
is
we got-
on preventive
detention, Your
imprisonment.
Honor.
Imprisonment.
Oh, that
Okay.
it should be.
What is the rule there?
I think that they should be counted,
Except,
except the latter part says that they should not cover those who are convicted of heinous crimes, etc. No.
is that stated in Article 29? Heinous crimes?
The second part about
Second
there
part.
is a provision. I cannot really recall what provision, but there is another provision in that law which says.
Well, I'm just
that-
asking
yes.
you about Article 29.
Uh-huh.
Well, exceptions are recidivist
Yes,
and multiple offenders. Regarding preventive imprisonment. What is the
Thank you.
definition of heinous crime?
heinous crimes, heinous like murder, homicide with rape, kidnapping, drugs, drug pushing.
What is your basis for your answer?
Well, murder has always been considered a heinous crime. Drugs is a heinous crime, no?
Defined in the laws, in our laws, heinous crime.
As I said, I'm not an expert in
You are not sure.
criminal law. I'm not sure, Your Honor.
There is
there
no
must be.
definition of heinous crimes. Just
like-
an enumeration
Okay, yes.
in the death
Yes.
penalty law.
Uh-huh.
But the death penalty law has been repealed. Okay? So those will be my last questions.
Okay.
sir. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Justice. Your excuse.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you and all the best, Justice Herrera. We shall have our lunch break and we shall resume at 2 o'clock.